Welcome back for another ECS Tuning Easy DIY. Today we are going to do our Assembled by ECS Liqui Moly Oil Service Kit on this BMW M240. The process is going to be the same for all B58s, so our ECS Oil Service Kit comes with 7 liters of Liqui Moly oil, a Hanks filter, a new drain plug and washer, and remember, the big jug has your oil service interval sticker on the top left corner. Just write down the mileage to your next oil change, peel and stick on your windshield, and remember for the next time. All right, let's go ahead and get started. To start off, we're going to pop the engine cover off. If you've never done this before, there are 4 rubber grommets that go on 4 posts, and they just pop off with hand pressure. We're just going to loosen the oil cap. That will prevent some back pressure from when we drain everything down below. Here's our oil filter housing underneath here. You're going to need a 32mm socket to get that off. And if you got some big old meat paws, you can take this wiring harness and these 2 clips pulled towards the driver's side, and you can lift that whole thing up and give you a little couple more millimeters of negotiating room in there. So I've got the Schwaben 32mm socket, and I have it on a 3/8 little articulated head just because the plastic tray is in the way otherwise. But that's it, we should just be able to crack this loose and pull the old filter out. Once it's loose, we should be able to get the rest by hand. You'll feel that O-ring come up, and I'll show you what I'm talking about on the filter housing, but there's an O-ring that adds a little bit of resistance until you get to the final few spins. There we go, we're past that now. I'm going to stuff a rag down on the back side. Don't forget this when you go to pull everything back out. There's not much to drip down on back there, but you know, cleaner is better than dirty. One more rag up top to catch anything dripping out of the filter. We had a couple of drops, so it's a good thing we had our rag down there. With everything out of the car, you can see what I was talking about a little easier. So this is that O-ring that has a lot of resistance when you first crack the filter housing loose. And then as it starts to unscrew and gets higher up, once that O-ring passes, that's when I went and finished it by hand. But hopefully that gives you a good visual. Our Hanks filter kit comes with the replacement O-ring. You do always want to change this. These are prone to leaking, so don't skip that step. And it has a new washer for the drain plug. I just use a little bit of waste oil to lube up the new ring. That just helps it seat into the housing a little better. And then a simple hook tool, and you can just gently, again, we're just dealing with rubber and plastic here, but just pry that out. And out with the old, scrape some of that goop up, lube that up, and put it back on the housing. The new filter will only go on one way. Here's a clip inside. It's going to go on the oil filter. You'll notice that there's a small hole and a big hole on the filter. It's going to go with the small hole up top, and then using some of that waste oil on our fingers, we're going to lube up the O-ring on the bottom of the filter, just like we did on the O-ring on the filter housing. Now it's ready to go back in the car. There's also an O-ring on the inside of the filter where it goes into the housing. So I'm going to just grab a little bit of waste oil from the housing and lube that up as well. And then assembly is the exact opposite of disassembly. It's tight, but there's room. And I'll start the threading until I get to that O-ring that we talked about over at the workbench. There you go, now she's tight, and I'll use the 32mm Schwaben socket to finish it off. And this goes on with 25 Newton meters of force. And again, just like the other BMWs, if you forget that torque spec, it's actually written on the housing. All right, that's tight there. I'm gonna grab the torque wrench. With everything in the oil filter housing reassembled, we're gonna go ahead and clip our lines back on. make sure this is loose, and go underneath the car to drain the oil. Underneath the car, there is a flap in the belly pan that gives us access to the oil pan drain bolt. It's held on with this plastic clip, so we're simply going to rotate that out of the way. And then the flap should come down pretty easily. There we go. This is our drain plug for the engine oil. This is pretty straightforward. It's just a 17 mil socket, 6-point. Our ECS kit comes with a new drain plug and washer. So if you don't want to reuse your original one, you're ready for a replacement. And the drain plug goes on with 25 Newton meters of torque. I'm just going to wipe it down, and we'll close up the flap and call it done under here, and we'll go up top and add some oil. We're filling up with Liqui Moly 0W20, and we're going to put 6 liters in and then go measure things on the MMI. Maybe even put 6.5 liters in. We don't want to go too crazy in case you know, we overflow. We don't just want to add all 7 liters in right away because we don't want it to be overfull. We now have about 6.5 liters of oil in the car. We have it running so that it can warm up and we can do a proper engine oil level check. But in the interim, while it's warming up, I'm just going to put the engine cover back on. As a reminder, it's these rubber grommets, and they're going to mate to the posts on top of the valve cover. With the car on but not running, so just on but engine not running, we're going to go ahead and press and hold the button in the bottom left of the dash until it gets us into the service indicators for the vehicle. Reset, hold it again. Reset successful, we got another 9,000 miles. All right, so we finished our oil change. We got about 6.5 liters in, and now we've driven the car for a half hour this morning, get it all up to temp. So we're gonna now check our oil officially. So in the MMI, we're gonna go to My Vehicle. We're gonna go to Vehicle Status, and the car has to be running for this. So we're going to turn it on, but leave it idling. Now in vehicle status, we can go over on the left side down to oil and engine oil level. Now it says okay, which means it's not critically low, but now we can do a proper measurement because the car is warm. So I'm going to click once more. And here we go. Perfect. We are right at the top of max, so we are good to go. We don't have to worry about taking any out, and we don't have to worry about putting any in. That concludes this oil service journey. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider liking and subscribing for more enthusiast content.